Well, the death toll from Ukraine's Kramatorsk region attack has risen to 10, with 2 more bodies, including a 4th child, pulled out of the wreckage. This comes as the police reveals that at least 61 persons were wounded in Tuesday's missile strike, which turned a crowded restaurant into a pile of twisted beams. Spokeswoman for the Donetsk region emergency services, Veronika Bakhal, made the announcement while giving updates on the situation. Following the attack, the Kremlin has said it only hit targets in Ukraine that are somehow linked to the military. We have a report. Well, joining me now from Sao Paulo, Brazil, to discuss the lingering war is an international affairs analyst, Aurea Francelli. Thank you for joining us on The World Now. Russia's latest attack in Kramatorsk, Ukraine, has left at least 10 people dead, and that's including children. These are soft targets. What do you say?
Well, thank you for having me here. It's a Russian strategy because of everything that happened last weekend with the Wagner group and the mutiny. They're trying to somehow to show strength, and because Putin looked very weak, he looked very vulnerable after everything. His army looked very vulnerable because when the mercenaries were marching towards Moscow, they didn't do anything. So he needs to somehow show the Russian population that Russia is making gains in Ukraine, and this explosion, these attacks, they are nothing more than something that Russia has been doing all of this time in all different kinds of wars, which is targeting civilians and committing war crimes.
And as it is, the Russian government is claiming that it only hit targets that are somehow linked to the military. But what we saw brought down on Tuesday was a crowded restaurant, which, has now been described as twisted beams. I mean, does this exactly fall within the category of, what Russia claims it attacks in Ukraine?
Russia's been lying this entire time. They say that they don't target civilians, but it's being proven, and you have international organizations looking for evidence, and this takes a long time, of all the different sorts of war crimes that are being committed by Russia since the beginning of the war, that it's illegal itself. And if it wasn't for that, Putin wouldn't be right now wanted by the International Criminal Court. There's an international arrest warrant against him. There will be in August, maybe in 1.5 months, the BRICS meeting in South Africa with all the BRICS countries' leaders, and even South Africa is discussing now how they're going to host an international wanted criminal without having to arrest him in the country. So Russia is in a very, very difficult situation right now, including when it comes to its neighboring countries that were supportive of Russia, because Putin actually looks very, very weak right now.
And a difficult situation it really is, because following the Wagner Group's rebellion this past weekend, relationships seem to be really strained between President Putin and Mr. Prigozhin, who is commander of the Wagner mercenary group. So in the days ahead, where do you see this lead, especially those who are involved in this conflict?
It's very hard to predict exactly what will happen, but what we can say for sure is that there will be a lot of stability from now on. Because if for 23 years Putin tried to look very, very strong, he always tried to distance himself from any sort of polemic. We can even look at the pandemic when it broke all over the world. What did Putin do? He went into hiding. He left the responsibilities for the local authorities. Also, during the war, what happened? Whenever there was an unpopular decision to be announced, what did Putin do? He always left it for his top generals to announce these decisions. So he would always protect himself. And when this rebellion took place, people were expecting their something from their brave strongman leader, which didn't happen. He promised that he would stop everything, but he ended up forgiving the Wagner leader, and now he looks very weak.
All right, let's quickly touch on Ukraine's counteroffensive. President Zelensky says it's making advances on all fronts. Just how much progress do you think Ukraine is making in this conflict?
I think it's also very difficult to measure. It's expected that they will make some more advance now without the Wagner group there, but it's also the situation changed from last weekend, so we can expect Ukraine to try to use the opportunity that was left when now Russia looks a little bit more fragile than before, but it's still it will be very difficult to regain territory, also because there's a lot of mines on the ground. Russia left a lot of mines, so it's a very dangerous terrain right now.
And Ukraine is trying so hard to shore up support from across the world to defend itself in this conflict. International affairs analyst Ariel Francelli, thank you for talking to us on The World Now.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.